My name is Ryder Kouba, and I'm the Librarian and Archivist here at the American Center of Research in Amman, Jordan. And today I'll be presenting about ACOR's efforts to build, maintain, and improve the ACOR photo archive. For full disclosure, I arrived in ACOR in July, so I was not part of the grant. Jack Green and my predecessor Jessica Holland, and the librarian Carmen Ayubi, as well as a host of other staff members, did a great job with this project. And it was informational for me to be able to go back and read the documentation, figure out what had been done, both from my understanding of our current grant, as well as for this presentation. So to begin with, if you don't know much or haven't heard of ACOR, we are located in Amman, Jordan. Until 2020, we were known as the American Center for Oriental Research. We're a nonprofit institution dedicated to advancing knowledge about Jordan and the region. We're in our 53rd year. You see, we were founded in 1968. So besides the library, we provide research facilities, we assist in field excavations, we have a hostel to host archaeologists as well as fellows. We've produced a number of publications, including the journal Archaeology in Jordan, and support archaeologists generally through logistics, equipment rentals, things like that. Additionally, to help advance research and knowledge in the area, we provide fellowships, both to Jordanian and international researchers, and have been involved in numerous archaeological projects. ACOR is founded as an archaeological institution very heavily. It's still a huge part of our remit and our work, though the topics ACOR supports and has covered have expanded dramatically over the years. So it covers pretty much all aspects of Jordanian life, Jordanian history, as well as the region, the Levant as a whole. And as our building on the right, fittingly, there's a Roman farmhouse, Herbert Settlement, that has been excavated, and we're actually doing work on it right now. The building is under renovation, and so we're hoping to be open again to the public soon. For our public lectures, which you can find on YouTube, as well as visitors to the library. So in the 50th anniversary brochure, the library was called the Jewel of ACOR. We're kind of the front porch in the way many people interact with and experience ACOR. We currently have about 45,000 volumes, books and journals. Our archive of unique materials includes around 100,000 photographic images, most of which are 35mm slides. So we also have negatives and photographic prints. About 1,500 maps of Jordan, Palestine, the Middle East, as well as the institutional archives and some personal papers that have been donated to us. One of the key outreach efforts or things that people come to the library for is our subscriptions to academic databases that are difficult to find and not widely available in Jordan, most notably JSTOR. And so we get a lot of students from the University of Jordan, which is across the street, coming over to take advantage of that resource. So, the meat of the conversation is the Title VI grant ACOR received and filled from 2016 to 2020. As you may imagine, with a paper titled Photo Archive, that was the goal, was to create a repository that users from around the world could view images that we had available, that we digitized, and take advantage of these resources. If you couldn't make it to Amman, then you could access our great collections from anywhere. there's no, so of course, why did this happen? I mean, the big reason, of course, is to promote and provide access to our unique collections, many of which have to do with archaeology in Jordan, and which might not be as widely accessible as, say, Mamluk architecture in Cairo, where many institutions have photographs from travelers or researchers in the repository. A lot of these Jordanian archaeological sites are just simply less accessible to people who may be interested in utilizing that. Of course, there are many knock-on benefits from promoting your collections, putting them online, and providing access. Big one is the opportunity to collaborate with other institutions. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Digital Library Middle East. I was a curator on that way back when it started to help select who would be involved with institutions. And so we have a memorandum of understanding with them, though for reasons I'll get into, we currently do not have our images with them or findable through their database. One of the great things the grant did, and that Jessica and Jack and my colleague Samia Katif did, was share the knowledge they gained through the numerous trainings they had with experts, through workshops they attended. They brought that knowledge back to Jordan, and ACOR hosted several workshops directly related to the photo archive, either about technical skills, how to use the archive, showcasing the collection to teachers as well, to let people know what was available, how they could use it, and what benefit it may have for them. So this all, I think, sounds great. It's pretty, par for the course. But, we have a lot of experience of, this great plan, but there are bumps in the road. So ACOR had two previous attempts at providing content online, and both of those didn't quite work out. And we were starting, the last one was like 2011, so we're starting from scratch. Staff had not digitized much, and so they need to be trained. There wasn't enough staffing, It's great to say we're going to digitize 30,000 images, but there is like a amount of time that will take. No matter how efficient you are, there's like a physical limit on how fast that scanner will go. And so you need to hire good people to do that. And of course, the big one, if you have all this content digitized, and how are you going to host it? That's, you can have the most beautiful images, the most sparkling metadata, but if your system isn't user-friendly, if the system doesn't work as it needs to, then a lot of the benefits can be negated. So very briefly, I think we're all fans of digital libraries and digital archives and providing access to collections online. And so I'll just briefly go over some of the benefits. The first is preservation. And while you hear all the time in American archival literature, preservation or digitization does not equal preservation, which I agree with. You can digitize something and also not preserve the physical item. I do think digitization helps with preservation and supports preservation. Besides the image you're getting, or with the image you're getting, the slides here are less susceptible to handling. You don't need to pull them out of their binders and have people flip through those pages and try to pull them out of sometimes very tight sleeves. It is handling. If that can increase the lifespan of objects. Additionally, as part of the digitalization project, the slides received cleaning which can also help, obviously helps improve the long-term viability of film. The main reason for us to digitize is to provide access. Even just looking at this scan of these slides in this one sheet, I mean, I think you can all imagine the 30,000 and the dozens of binders and boxes full of slides, how difficult it can be to find, for a researcher to find or us to find what's needed. Even though this collection by Jane Taylor has some nice metadata, even if we have a spreadsheet, listing every slide, still need to physically find that object and takes time. You can't easily sort through the 1,500 images of Petra if they're in 13 different binders. Additionally, especially for an American Institute Research Center abroad, or a lot of people may not be able to make it to Amman to do research physically in ACOR, especially with COVID. And so by putting them online, people can access them from anywhere, take advantage of our resources, even if they don't have the ability to travel to us. It makes it easier for the archives too. If a researcher emails us from Iowa in the United States saying, can you send me, so it's a Petra, sure. Without the digital or the photo archive, we would need to do that piecemeal, rather than just providing a link and saying, here's everything we have, and I can fill it out. Mentioned before, the three main pillars of the project were the digitization of slides, the creation of metadata, and hosting them on platform. And so I've kind of touched on this, but with digitization, staff need to be trained on equipment that also has to be purchased because there's not any slide scanners available. Slides had to be selected, what would be digitized first, and then preservation. Both, physical objects rehoused, but a huge important part of any digitization project is having the resources to preserve the files we create. It's very frustrating, when you are speaking to a dean or someone saying, we want to digitize everything, put it online, and they support that aspect. But when you come back and say, we need, $1,000 to buy a RAID system for preservation, or a couple of external hard drives or cloud storage, and they balk it, and they have trouble with that or balk at that. There's no point in digitizing everything, going through all that work if you're not preserving the fruits of your labor. And so through the platform, the grant accomplished that, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Additionally, while some slides had metadata, the ones you saw earlier from Jane Taylor, for example, many do not. The ones we're working on now are blank, basically. And so that takes a lot of time. We have to figure out what standards we want to use. And as I'm sure many of us here have had the challenge of working with English transliteration of Arabic place names or personal names, and how do you spell like Ayn Ghazal? Is it A-I-N or A-Y-N? You have both, which is the decision ACOR made, is to have multiple place names to try to capture as many search options as possible. One issue, or in fact, most of the first grant, the 2016 grant, was English only. A couple do have some Arabic, but by and large, is English metadata that is being provided, which does limit the usability, which came up in meetings with various Jordanian teachers or faculty or librarians. So, we have the digits, we have the files, we have the metadata, and how are we going to host this? The original plan was to use Flickr, It's a great platform. A lot of archives and libraries use it. The wonderful archaeological aerial project in the Middle East, who took the photo of ACOR we saw earlier. Use Flickr. It's a great way to reach a very wide audience, people who may not even be interested in archaeology or the content, or specifically what we have, but they search for Amman and our images pop up and they're like, wow, this is great. Eventually, the decision was made to move away from that, and we partnered with Starchive, which is a company or a platform under the Digital Relab company. And that advantage Starchive had was it provided preservation. It's a digital asset management system. And so when we uploaded content there, which is the TIFF files that the master files are almost always scanned as TIFFs, and those were uploaded rather than a JPEG access file. Most places, I think, upload, many places upload a much smaller JPEG file for access. And so by uploading the TIFF file, that's preserved, which is a good policy in general, not to have all your copies in one physical location. Currently, besides the cloud storage, if something happened to the building during renovation and the servers went down and the external hard drive had issues, that would be a real problem if we did not have files being kept off-site. Another issue with Flickr, especially with the future, looking forward to what may be in the photo archive, was that we have a lot of audio files, we have a lot of documents, and we have video, and those are not formats that Flickr handles particularly well. So that also helped push the decision to Starchive. So here is the photo archive. You can see the URL there. This is taken when we had 20,000 images in there. So you can see it's a very user-friendly thumbnail view of the content we have. You click on an image, and you can see the associated metadata. It's, I would say, pretty straightforward. This drop-down menu is the top for the country and the location, place names. That users can also sort images by, if they don't know exactly what they want, but they know they want to see Amman or whatever topic interests them. So as I mentioned, like a huge part of the grant, the third requirement was to go out and share our knowledge with the local community and prove, and as well as promote the photo archive. So ACOR hosted archival methods workshop. Jessica presented at the Digital Library Forum in the United States about the project. Along with the project came a lot of Wikipedia edit-a-thons to help improve both knowledge of Jordan, because there's a lot of sites, archaeological sites, or people related to Jordan, Jordanians, that don't have Wikipedia pages yet, or didn't, for these projects. And the Arabic Wikipedia pages were also improved or created because there's fewer Arabic pages in general. And so that was a big goal of this project outreach. You can see it got media coverage and was quite successful. In addition to workshops, presentations, normal like promoting our photos and collections through social media, as well as blog posts, which were really well done. They provided more in-depth knowledge and information about the photos that people may not be aware of just looking at a bunch of thumbnails. And they also were able to provide like thematic information or topical information, linking together various collections in a new way, as well as just promoting the photo archive to visitors to the website. So these are the results. As you can see on the left, Google is surprisingly low, which I'll talk to, but you can see Facebook did quite well. The Arabic or the Wikipedia pages responsible for right now about 10% of visitors. So it's been this kind of the breakdown. Most people come to the photo archive through the ACOR site. Geographically is what you expect. American and Jordan users kind of predominate, but the language, I think, was a surprise and was the direct impetus for the 2020 grant to include Arabic metadata, because simply we were not getting a huge number of Arabic-speaking users or Arabic people using Arabic on their computers. And obviously, based in Jordan, having collections directly related to the Middle East. This is an area that could be improved on a lot. And certainly, I think if I'm an Arabic user and speaker and you come to the site and enter some search terms, it can be frustrating if you don't find anything. You feel the site is not really meant for you. It's meant for American academics. And that is not the message we want to send. That's part of the reason there's Wikipedia editathons linking to the photo archive and social media. And so that number will hopefully increase a lot with the upcoming grant. So while I was not there from 2016 to 2020, talking to people, staff members, reading the documentation, seeing how changes they made for the 2020 grant that I'm on. These are some of the lessons that I think ACOR and the staff took away. I think the first is that vendors are running a business. When you read the minutes from ACOR's conversations with Archive and what ACOR requested and what Archive worked to deliver, it was all great. It was online. Unfortunately, when we signed up for Archive, we signed up for Archive version 2, and they were really pushing, we're going to reach out to cultural institutions. We're going to be hosting, content from them. That is part of our business. Archive is now on version 3, and that public access objective has been scrapped from the business model. And so they're much more focusing on the DAM side for individuals to host their material in small businesses, things like that. And so obviously, ACOR could not have known that, but that is, part of working with someone is they pivot what services they would be providing. And so the new grant, that is something that is we're trying to address through building a new front end for the database, the Archive database. So secondly, I mentioned Google is a bit low, it's like 8%. And a big reason for that is it's not, if you search ACOR Photo Archive, you can find the website, which is good. But if you search, Amman Citadel historic photos or Petra historical photos or some archaeological site, it will not show up in Google. The database is not linked, not crawled by Google, not indexed by Google. And so that's an issue with people finding us, is how many people know about ACOR in the US or around the world, and how many people, will just go to Google, search, I want, historic photos of this site, and go with the results that are there. So again, that's something the new grant needs to improve. The accessibility of people who don't know we exist and aren't even looking for us, but that we show up. Because I think you can only get so far with people who follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook, know about us. It's the other users who may not even know there's an American Center of Research in Jordan but are looking for something in Jordan that we need to reach out to, or receive visits from as well. On the opposite side of the coin, from reaching a broader base through improved searchability and improved improved findability. The photo archive maybe not received as much academic attention as we would have liked, despite outreach efforts. And lastly, the importance of Arabic metadata to reach a huge number of potential users in Jordan and around the Middle East and around the world. And while that's something that was definitely noted in a lot of the reports from various conferences and workshops, that this is something that people we're meeting with would like to see and improve their experience of the photo archive. So we received another Title VI grant, this one from 2020 to 2024. And so the digitization aspect for slides, of which there are 20,000 that will be added, was largely the same, except for adding Arabic metadata, which is a lot more work, but it needed to be done. There are new formats, though, being digitized that require new equipment, new training, new metadata for audio, cassettes, and VHS and Betamax tapes. As I mentioned, the focused outreach on specific groups. For the grant, it's part of the community college and minority serving institution grant. And so we are hiring a outreach specialist to select 3 fellows per year who will create lesson plans using our content. And so that will hopefully improve usage among faculty and students. As faculty use these lesson plans, the vision is rather than having to find ACOR, find the image they want, use it in their lecture, we will have pre-made lesson plans that faculty can select from and sort by topic or whatever field they may be interested in, and present that to their class rather than having to start from scratch. And the photo archive will be rebranded as digital archive with the new formats coming in. So we've already had some challenges, the biggest one being, of course, COVID and the renovation, the COVID with the ACOR physically being closed to staff and researchers for many months. And so that obviously hinders how much digitization can be done. And then also the staff turnover, the natural way of the world where, somebody leaves, there's a gap before I come. And so things may not be going, this takes time for everyone to catch up, and it slows the process down again a bit. So you can see here, as I talked about with the wide range of formats, I was running around like a nut with a pencil and cassette tape, asking younger interns if they knew the connection between these two objects, and many did not, as well as a sample of the Arabic metadata. And so, like I said, it's more work. It's twice as many columns, though. The previous grant did a good job creating these sources for locations, both the various spellings and Arabic, so we don't have to look it up every time we see Damascus. We can just go to the source and copy and paste, and that's done. And likewise, now we're doing that for a subject heading. So a staff member who uses columns can just go to the spreadsheet and find out what term we're using for that in Arabic, or vice versa if it's done in Arabic first. And that helps ensure consistency, which is of course extremely important in metadata. If you have a picture of a bunch of columns, you don't want it to be split. Half are called columns, half are called pillar, and the other half are column, singular. So that's very important to have standards in place to ensure just consistency of the metadata. So if people find everything that they're looking for and they're not missing items when they search for something. We're very excited about this new grant. I'm looking forward to sharing more, especially about the outreach efforts and the lesson plans and how that goes. It's exciting to hopefully have more students and faculty accessing what we have. I'll briefly talk about the future. This is a fun topic, but I think one challenge we'll face in the next grant, the next project, is born digital material. I know Barbara Porter, the previous head of ACOR, took thousands of photos that are very similar to her slides. And those will need to be included in the photo archive, but there is just a lot more content. And so will the metadata become more minimal? Maybe metadata will become easier because there's embedded EXIF data where she tagged them, where they're in the folders. And so we can just say this folder will give it the same metadata and the user can view the photo, and we don't need to get so detailed or granular. I don't know much about archaeology. I can imagine new formats coming in. Friends who work in architectural libraries are always dealing with AutoCAD formats or this format or that format. And so something I am passionate about is web archiving, preserving websites. And so that is a new type of, not super new, but a type of data that needs to be preserved and provided access for. That may happen. I think collaboration will increase. I hope, because benefits, I think, parties to be connected, benefits researchers where they only have to go to one stop, like WorldCat or something, and search multiple repositories to find what they're looking for, rather than having to go through 7 different institutions and search those all out and navigate their various different systems. And that can be a frustrating experience. It's also good for ACOR to be associated with, Stanford or Harvard or the French National Library in Digital Library of the Middle East, because people are more aware of those, perhaps, especially in the US, and they go there first and never even get to ACOR because they don't know we exist. So if somebody goes to the Digital Library of the Middle East and searches for Jordan, maybe they thought, oh, I'll just see what Stanford has and Harvard. But we pop up and like, wow, this is a great collection. So that's beneficial. I do think, along with collaboration, of course, the flip side of the coin is just competition. More and more institutions and archives and libraries are putting material online. And so I think people will need to do a better job promoting their collections, adding value to the platform they have, be that like mapping tools or text analysis tools, some way to differentiate themselves from other institutions. And lastly is, archivist and librarian, my job is to support researchers and help them. And so on the right is a map I made of the sites in the photo archive. I love making maps and georeferencing and QGIS and all that. And I think we all, as librarians and archivists, need to get at least familiar with digital humanities and the possibilities. If a researcher comes and says, you have, these 30,000 photos online, what can we do with that? Like, what kind of visualization can I create? How can I use that data in my project? So being aware of tools available and techniques help researchers, I think will be important. I think this map is cool. It helps me because I know, I think being so new to Jordan, I just don't know where stuff is. So visually, spatially, it kind of makes things a bit clearer. ArcNet just released a new version of their website, and they have a great mapping tool to show you sites within a certain location on the map. That is, again, a good example of a way they can separate themselves from other platforms. Happy to answer any questions you have to the best of my ability. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Have a great day.